All right, well, you asked for it, so you got it. Batman Beyond, Return of the Joker, my full review coming right at you. Hello friends, welcome back to the show. So glad to see you all once again, and here we are. A lot of you have been asking if I was going to review Batman Beyond Return of the Joker as sort of an end cap to the whole Batman Beyond series, and I had to do it. I had to insert this little review, and then next up I'll be doing a video kind of talking about my whole experience watching Batman Beyond now 20 plus years later. So keep an eye out for that. But today we're talking about the movie Batman Beyond Return of the Joker. Actually, I'm not even sure if Batman Beyond's in the title. Maybe it's just Return of the Joker. But anyway, here we go. We're going to jump right into it.
The plan is get in and get out fast.
Maybe I should be ashamed to say this, but this was for sure the first time I had ever seen this movie.
You got a death wish, Bats.
I remember it being advertised. I remember it coming out. I remember seeing it at the video store, for those of you that remember that. But you know, I wasn't a big Batman Beyond fan, and like I said, at this point in my life, I was graduating or just getting ready to graduate from high school, and so a little preoccupied, a little busy, and so this wasn't on the top of my list, and then it just sort of passed me by.
And here I thought I was just being a good citizen.
What I do remember about this movie was the cover art, the poster, the image on the box. Return of the Joker, that sounds intriguing. I knew that this movie took place in the future with the Batman Beyond universe, but I don't know if it was the best choice to have the most stark image of the cover was Joker with a green face. And that was odd for me. And I couldn't quite get my mind wrapped around why that was, or, you know, and I remember kind of dismissing this movie because of that, because I thought, why does he have a green face? The Joker is made up white. Like, why would he have a green face? And that never really made sense to me. Spoiler alert, now that I've watched the movie, he doesn't have a green face. I don't know why that is on the cover or why they chose to do that.
That ain't coming out of my allowance.
By the way, speaking of spoilers, this is going to be a spoiler-filled review. If you haven't seen the movie by now, please pause this video, save it in your watch later, and go watch the movie and then come back to the review. It would be very challenging to review this movie without giving away some major spoilers. So this is your warning. Turn off now if you have not seen the movie and that you want to watch it without it being spoiled.
I'm sure we'll all profit from his years of experience.
Okay, good. Everyone here has seen the movie. And which is funny for me to say that because up until, you know, just a few weeks ago when I first watched this movie, I had never seen it. And sort of was able to avoid any spoilers. Even as I was going through and reviewing Batman Beyond, thank you to all of you who didn't spoil this movie for me, because there's some really cool reveals in this movie and really kind of an ingenious plot that kind of puts this all together. But we'll get into that later.
If he'll stay on my terms.
But just to jump right in, when I sat down to watch this movie, I had it up on my big TV with the surround sound and really just kind of dug into it. And it was really, really fun. It was really cool to see this movie on a large TV. You could definitely tell that this was done with a cinematic quality. There was definitely a larger scope to it. The shots of the city and all the hideouts, everything was just bigger and larger. The animation was incredible. or Batman flying through the sky, it was just absolutely fantastic to watch in that way.
I may as well sit tight until I can get another shot at him.
Even though I had not seen this when I was younger and I'm watching it for the first time, it definitely has that 90s, early 2000 kind of feel to it. So there was definitely this nostalgic feeling still attached to it of watching a cartoon on the main TV in the evening. It was just really just a very fun, cool experience.
Ever since you conned your way into this gang, it's been your day this and your day that.
How I remember when I was a kid, that was a big deal. You know, before Cartoon Network and before streaming services where you can watch cartoons whenever you want, it was a big deal when they would air cartoons in the evenings, and whether it was an animated movie or it was an episode of a TV show. Sometimes it was like a pilot of a show that they would be releasing to get people excited about it. And it was always just kind of a cool experience watching cartoons in the evening. And again, it's one of those weird nostalgic feelings that I cannot communicate to the younger generation what that is like. But cartoons were very much, when I was growing up, regulated to Saturday mornings, weekday afternoons, and that was it. Until these special occasions came around, or on the holidays, there'd be an animated special in the evenings, Garfield or something like that. Peanuts, obviously. And those were just really special, happy times. And watching this movie certainly gave me some of those same kind of feels. Watching it in the evening and just sitting back and enjoying this movie was a lot of fun. And I think that my review of it will reflect some of those things.
Your day is over, old man.
All right, enough of a walk down memory lane. Let's dig into this movie. I keep wanting to call it an episode. I think it's just sheerly because I've been so used to that. But I do have to say, it very much is a continuation of the series. It is a nice kind of bookend to the show. And when I was looking it up, they certainly were in production working on this movie towards the end of the series. And I mentioned this in the review of the last episode, Unmasked, which you can see up here, that wasn't a really well thought out plan to end the series on, and nor do I think that really was the plan. But with this movie coming out, I can see now that it could have been more of a focus of letting this movie kind of serve as the last episode, which many of you mentioned in the comments, that's kind of the interpretation of this movie, is that it is kind of the end of the series. And certainly for me is a much more fulfilling story to end Batman Beyond on than Unmasked.
Still, the day-to-day rigors of running a vast multinational conglomerate would be stressful, even for a young man.
One of the other improvements on this movie, to me, from the episodes and the series, is the music. The music's a little bit different. Still has a rock and roll flair, but not as electric guitar, whammy bar-ish. It's all the technical terms for you music nerds out there.
Losers.
A little more cinematic, a little bit more grand, a little bit more Batman-like, but still kind of that futuristic rock and roll flavor to it. But I think we were starting to edge out of that in the MTV generation, and so they were kind of updating a little bit without straying too far from what Batman Beyond is used to.
It's a school night, boys and girls. I'm gonna have to call your folks.
I do have to give a special shout out to the Joker gang. It was very fun to hear some familiar voices. The scarecrow-looking Joker guy, voiced by Michael Rosenbaum, familiar voice in the DC animated universe, of course, played Lex Luthor in Smallville, but also the voice of Flash in Justice League, and voiced a couple of little bit characters here and there throughout the series. But to hear him not only doing a voice, but doing a Christopher Walken impression for his character was kind of a nice perk in the beginning of the episode, or movie, I guess it is.
He should have said heel.
Now we get into the opening credits, which I wasn't overly thrilled with. I feel like they could have done more with that. It kind of goes on a little bit longer than I think it needed to, and it's interesting watching, even just any movies from this time period is like, that was more of a thing. Some movies would do a real cinematic kind of title sequence. This was just names coming up on the screen, and it took up a little bit of extra time, but certainly an earmark of this time and period in movies. But even with that, it was very cool and very refreshing to see Mark Hamill's name come on the screen. Again, it's just a bit of a throwback to like, okay, yeah, now we're in a Batman movie.
You know the Jokers are going in for splicing now?
And again, in the movie world, there was a great introduction to Bruce. We saw some of the dummies of the villains that he's faced in the past, and Bruce throwing the Batarang. That they build these introductions for the characters. Even though we've spent 3 seasons seeing these characters, they still took special care of introducing them into the movie language that they were about to present.
Still got it.
and it gave a great opportunity to see different elements of the Batcave. And like I said, just the scope of this movie, they really kind of expanded the city. They really used all of the canvas, if you will, to really build out these locations. The Batcave is bigger, and the Joker's hideout's bigger, and the city scope, Batman flying through the city, all of that is just done at a higher level, which I appreciate, that this wasn't just a longer episode of the show, but they really took care into doing probably what they always wanted to do with the show, and never quite had the opportunity to. And I'm glad that they were able to do that with the movie.
Batman showed up and we had a ditch.
So, and then we go to the Joker's hideout and we introduce the Joker return, which I thought was well done. That we didn't spend a lot of time until later on explaining where the Joker came from, how he showed up, but he just kind of, you just hear Mark Hamill's voice in the shadows.
Ah, brave new world that has such putzes in it.
Very cool. And within a few minutes of Joker being on the screen, he kills somebody. He kills one of his own members of his gang. It was just another great introduction to a character. This, again, is an example of a story that needed to be told as a movie. This couldn't have been an episode. This couldn't have been a two-parter. It needed to be a movie, and I'm glad they did it that way. But hearing Mark Hamill's voice coming out of the Joker, and then it just fires off all these questions. You're sitting there watching and going, where did he come from? How is the Joker back? He looks young. What happened? And so all these questions are racing. It's a testament to Paul Dini's writing that we're now, as an audience, watching and going, what is going on? And slowly but surely, the plot of the movie kind of rolls out from there.
That's also how we did it in my day.
Quickly after that, we go to Bruce's party that he's going to be joining Wayne Manor again, or Wayne Manor, he lives there. He's going to be joining Wayne Corp again, and there's a little subplot there of the person that is stepping in over top of that wanted the job of CEO or president or whatever the title is. And then Joker's laugh comes over the loudspeaker, and seeing Joker and Bruce coming face to face again, another really cool moment and very nostalgic for me as a fan of the original series and Batman and Joker face off. Very cool. Very, very exciting to see that.
Hello, Gotham. Joker's back in town.
Then, of course, we go back to the Batcave, and now Bruce is asking those same questions we are. Where did he come from? How is he back? How did this happen? And it's clear that Bruce knows more than he's telling Terry, and it's clear that he knows more than, well, obviously what we know as an audience. But it was a little cool moment how they had, as he's looking at archive footage and comparing voice patterns and things like that, that it's from the episode Holiday Nights, which you can see my review up here from the new Batman Adventures, New Adventures of Batman. I can never get that right.
Unless our dear Dark Knight stops me first.
This scene where Bruce is talking with Terry, and Terry's asking the same questions we as an audience are asking, and Bruce ultimately asking him to give up the suit and step away from Batman.
I want you to give back the Batman suit.
This was really a very cool moment in the movie, and certainly in the series, because this hasn't happened. This hasn't been something that, surprisingly, we haven't dealt much with. In the first episode, Rebirth, which again, you can see my review for that up here, there was, a little push and pull, Terry wanting to become Batman, not sure if he should be the right one, all that kind of stuff. But then once they got over that episode, Terry was Batman, pure and simple, and he was a different type of Batman, and he handled things a little bit differently, but Bruce never asked him to step down or to walk away from this. But it was the Joker, the appearance of the Joker, that causes this kind of reaction to go, boy, we got to really take special care of this.
You've honored the reputation of Batman many times over, and for that, I thank you.
So we have Terry now as not Batman, and he's going to hang out with Dana and is spending time with her and is enjoying being around Dana, which I thought was a nice little bit of a redemption from some of the ways that he's handled his relationship with her in the past. And I thought, okay, here's a guy that clearly wants to be with her and is seizing this opportunity of not having a night job, that he can now spend some time with Dana. So I appreciate that they did that.
The good news is You have me all to yourself.
But it was about this point in the movie that I made a note of. Where's Max? Why is Max not in this movie? They even have Chelsea in the movie, in the story, but no Max, who it was kind of bizarre that she wasn't in there. And I don't know if it was a contract thing with her, with the voice actor, or what the story is. And I did a little bit of digging to try to figure out what was going on there, because Max wasn't just like a supporting character. I mean, I would call her one of the primary characters of the series, and was integral in the plot, was somebody that knew Terry's secret and that he was Batman, and just very involved in the story for her to just not be in the movie, but also they don't even reference her. They don't even say, oh yeah, Max is on vacation in Russia. You know, it's just like, she just was gone, just not even, like she didn't even exist. And I kind of missed her. Like it seemed like she needed to be there, or should have been there, and just wasn't. So I don't know, not sure what that was all about.
It may be a change for you, Chelsea. I don't see enough of Terry to know the difference.
Then we have a moment where Joker infiltrates the Batcave to attack Bruce Wayne, who he knows is Batman, which is kind of mind-boggling, kind of a little scary and frightening.
Hello, Batman.
But what's interesting about that scene, and you only kind of figure this out later, or we see Bruce Wayne in the Batcave at this moment, at the beginning of the scene, working on the Joker gas antitoxin, antidote, or whatever you want to call it.
What is it, boy?
Which is just kind of cool, and it's a cool nod to, like, this is how good Bruce is, that he knows Joker's surely going to use the laughing gas and surely going to attack people, so I better get to work on it. And I like that. It's kind of a nice little moment there. Terry goes to Barbara to talk with her to see if she knows what is going on with Bruce, which leads into a flashback. And if you know anything about me and have watched my reviews before, you know I'm not a huge fan of flashbacks, and sometimes they're very clunky, sometimes they seem very unnecessary. But in this case, not only was it necessary because it told very important information for this story to be able to move forward, but it also very cool to watch because it was like throwing us back into an episode of the new Batman adventures, which was just really cool. We saw Robin, and we saw Batgirl, and we saw Batman, and it was like seeing this little mini episode, the Bat family back together, and they did it very much in that vein of like having that same kind of music in there, and it was just a really cool moment. Very important for the plot, and gave some very important information to us about Robin and how they thought Robin was killed, but he was captured by the Joker, and just very cool sequence in general. And that could have been an episode from the new Adventures of Batman, but it was neat to have it kind of inserted into this movie.
Hero time.
We see Robin being captured by the Joker and Harley Quinn, and then made to become their weird adopted son that is like a little baby Joker. That, like I said, that in itself could have been a whole episode, which was really fascinating. And I mean, that is Paul Dini at his best, to come up with this really bizarre, crazy plot, and seeing little baby Joker laughing like the Joker, and them trying to get through to Tim Drake to go snap out of it, but knowing he's been well brainwashed at this point and has been gone, and they thought he was killed, and just the intricacy of that plot and the layers to what's going on in there is just really dark and creepy and twisted, but very neat.
Say hello, JJ.
Sort of a plot or a story that you would see more in the comic books than on TV. And so it was neat that they kind of took that little bit of a darker turn with that plot. And of course, at the end of Tim Drake being responsible for killing Joker and kind of fighting through his being brainwashed and shooting the Joker, very cool.
Tim.
it was a nice throwback to the old shows that I enjoyed, but also just because it was a really interesting plot that totally seems like something that Joker would do or that his twisted mind would come up with, but also just a very engaging plot device as to how to set up this moment in the story or in the movie.
It's okay, Tim. It's okay.
And that, of course, leads Terry to go investigate old Tim Drake, which that was kind of neat to see. Is that, yeah, that's something we haven't really thought about. Is we see old Bruce Wayne, and he's like pushing 80 or over 80 or somewhere in there. That, yeah, well, he had kids that were his Robins, and we see Barbara, who's a little bit older, but she's not Bruce's age. So naturally, well, yeah, Tim Drake, Dick Grayson, these characters would be older and still in the universe or in the world, presumably. So to check in with Tim Drake was a neat moment.
I'm no boy wonder anymore, but that old training never goes away, even at my age.
A great device in the story of like introducing him and seeing what he's up to and going, oh, okay, well that's cool. I'm glad that was in the movie and it didn't send up any red flags for me of like that was going to be a very integral part of the plot. And for those of you that, I presume all of you have seen the movie at this point, you know where this is going. But it was cool. It was neat to check in with him. It was neat to see what he's doing with his life, and that he has taken this experience of being Robin and putting it behind him and going, yeah, I did that. And I thought that's what I was going to continue to do. But then I decided, no, after this experience with the Joker, I hung up the cape and retired, have a family, have a job, have a regular life. And I thought, oh, cool, there's a nice little success story. Boy, was I wrong.
In the end, I was so sick of it, I never wanted to see that stupid Robin suit again.
And then the information, the real investigation starts kicking in, and to kind of connect the dots and going, oh, okay, so Tim Drake is behind this. I truly thought that the wannabe CEO of Wayne Corp, which I can't remember what his name is, but
I hope Mr. Wayne is up to the challenge.
He's also voiced by Mark Hamill, which I think was probably deliberate because you're going, well, clearly he's going to be the guy behind it. He's the Joker. He's the one that's doing this. And that wasn't the case at all.
The big guy who originally put us all in contact has decided you're a loose end.
And when you see this weapon put into action of this satellite that can target buildings and locations, and just this beam that shoots down and destroys stuff, like, wow, that is quite a weapon.
Think of it as urban tagging on a grand scale.
Again, just the scale of that would have been a much smaller laser, would have been much more focused if it was the show. But hey, we're doing a movie. Let's go big. Let's make this, pull out all the stop. Again, just another testament to this being like, this needed to be a movie. You couldn't have done this on a smaller scale and broke it up into little chunks. It needed to be a movie, and they really used that platform really well.
Aren't you the nasty tattletale?
And there's a great fight sequence there towards the end where Batman is fighting the different members of the Joker's gang, and I really like this take on the Jokers. I like that they had different personalities, and prior to this in the show, the Jokers were just sort of like, most of the time, sometimes they were more featured and kind of different, of their different identities came out. But in this, they really had very different personalities, very different voices, very different styles. The twins, Didi and BB, Didi, whatever their names were.
Delicate like a moose, Didi.
It was just a great look and design of the Joker gang. But then we have this fight with Terry fighting them, and I thought it was a great fight sequence that they put some thought into, rather than, okay, he's got to beat up all these different characters, that it was him using different tactics and different techniques to defeat each of them on their own terms, and what worked best and was the most efficient for eliminating them as a threat. And I thought, well, that's how fight scenes should be, and not just a blur of punches and kicks and, batarangs, and be like, oh, okay, yeah, there we go, they're done, moving on. But it was an engaging, interesting fight that we had with each of the members. It was cool.
You watch it. It's him.
At the heart of this plot is this way of bringing the Joker back. When you have a title called Return of the Joker, and certainly I was thinking about that title as I went through watching this movie and had different interpretations of what that was going to mean and how is the Joker back, and you know, in science fiction and fantasy and in comic book worlds, there's a million ways that they could have done that, and we've seen a lot of those. Oh, he was frozen and now he's thawed out, and oh, they had his head in a jar and they gave him a robotic body, or he went to the Lazarus pit, whatever. It could have been anything.
There's nothing about you I don't know, Batfake.
And this plot of him embedding his consciousness into a chip and using his brainwashed child, Tim Drake, and this long game of him embedding his personality into Tim Drake, really creative, really inventive, and really lived up to the title of Return of the Joker. It was as close to the Joker actually returning. You know, again, not any of those kind of cheap ways out to just go, oh yeah, here's a copycat that has studied everything that the Joker did and is now coming back. You know, it's just like, it was very incorporated into the plot, but also very tied to Batman and Batman's family, and felt very invasive in that sense. And just, I was just really, really impressed. That was, what a great reveal to find that this is Tim Drake, you know, but this blend of Tim Drake and the original Joker to become this new version, but still has all the same memories and all the same tie-ins to the past, was just, again, it was Paul Dini at his best, and it was really, really cool to see that.
Oh, I never get tired of that.
And then we see Terry bringing down the Joker, or defeating the Joker, in a way that, I don't want to say Bruce never did, but Bruce never utilized, was Terry beating him at his own game. And we just saw Terry using those techniques with the Joker's gang and using different techniques to defeat each of them. And then he comes in and does the same thing with the Joker. And it was a brilliant moment because, one, that here's this psychotic madman in the Joker that is sometimes taken lightly, or sometimes is a little bit of a dumbed down version of the Joker, but this was full psychopath mode. And for Terry to kind of use this technique to really seem like the only way he could have defeated the Joker in this instance, it was really, really exciting to see him, Terry as Batman, kind of grow up and become a more skilled crime fighter, and using a different technique than what he would have. This problem couldn't have been fixed, and he couldn't have stopped the Joker just by punching him. And certainly in terms of, he's using Tim Drake's body. So, you know, yeah, we can't just kill him. We can't just throw him off a cliff. We can't just, you know, break a bunch of bones. Like, we've got to defeat him in his mind, because that's where the Joker's living.
Don't play psychoanalyst with me, boy.
I love it when a plot of a movie or a story, just everything makes sense. Everything ties together, and everything's kind of interwoven, where you just can't pull out one piece of this or the whole thing's going to collapse. And everything, all those, it's very tight and compact and intricately done. And I always appreciate that, and especially appreciate it when it's done for an animated movie. You know, this movie's 75 minutes long, and it's just, it's so well crafted.
Why? I thought the Joker always wanted to make Batman laugh.
You're not Batman!
I've always been a fan of Paul Dini as a writer, going back to the original Batman the Animated Series, and the episodes that he wrote very, very much are at the top of my list of favorite episodes. But this one, he really outdid himself. He really pulled out all the stops on this episode, or this movie. Some great, great moments and thought to like really tie all this together. And this climactic scene of seeing Terry really, that's why I really think that this is a great conclusion to Batman Beyond, because we see Terry coming into his own, becoming his own version of Batman, and really making a name for himself in this instance. And great. It was really cool to see.
Told you didn't know me.
And of course, it was very fun at the end to see this kind of Harley Quinn, Nana Harley moment, and see that she's the grandma of the Dini and twins characters was cool, and it was another little great nod to the old series. So
break a grandmother's heart. I hope they throw the book at you.
So to recap all this, I'm not going to rank this against the episodes because it is very different. It would be easy to say, oh, this is the best episode of Batman Beyond that is out there, but it's just very different. It's a different platform. And again, I try to rank the episodes based on what they are, so it would just be very difficult to rank.
Not their game.
But I think I can safely say this was probably my favorite iteration of Batman Beyond that I've seen throughout the series.
Coming from you, that means everything.
You know, it took some of the things that I wasn't as crazy about in Batman Beyond throughout the series and kind of made it work for me. And again, I have a video coming out that's going to kind of recap my experience of watching Batman Beyond, so keep an eye out for that. But just in a general sense that I really like the way that this plot worked. I like the way that the story came together. I like that how it lived up to its title of bringing the Joker back into the fold. Just so many great moments of this movie, and so cool to watch in such a large scope and a large scale. And it just didn't feel like another longer episode. It felt like its own kind of thing, which again is why I can't really rank it against the episodes.
Sometimes the important things go unsaid.
I don't know, I mean, there's really not a bad thing I can say about it other than like, oh yeah, the titles at the beginning felt a little underwhelming. But who cares about that? The movie was fantastic, and it was, I mean, I should probably do a ranking of my favorite Batman animated movies, because this truly would probably be up towards the top of the list there, because just a well-crafted story. And often I look at movies, and if I'm going to invest an hour and a half, whatever the case is, it's got to hold my attention. It's got to be interesting enough and engaging enough. And this certainly was. Even the fight scenes were more interesting. Even Terry flying through the city was beautiful to look at.
You gonna be okay?
Go to work.
Just on and on and on. I can't think of a negative thing to say about this. That it was very enjoyable, and it's one of those movies, you know, sometimes I watch movies or shows and I'm glad that I watched it and I saw it that once, may not return to it, may not watch it again. This one I definitely will be watching again. I watched it a couple of times over the last couple of weeks getting ready for this review, but I'm saying, you know, in a couple of months or a year or down the road, I certainly could see myself watching this movie again and just enjoying it and just to watch it for fun, because it's just really good. I don't know how else to say it. It's a great movie. If you made it this far in the review, I hope you've already seen it, but if you haven't seen it in a while, go back and watch it again as an adult and let me know what you think of it, because I think I appreciated it more watching it now, and certainly after watching Batman Beyond the series. And I just can't say enough good about it. It's a really fun, great movie. So glad that I watched it. Thank you all for recommending me to watch that, incorporate that into the reviews.
You know, Bats, we've been doing this little runaround of ours for years.
If you enjoyed my take on this, hit that like button. If you want to see more videos like this coming out, reviewing shows and cartoons that we grew up on in the 80s and 90s, please hit subscribe. You know, again, I have an episode coming out talking about recapping Batman Beyond, talking a little bit about what's coming up next here on the channel. So keep an eye out for that. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I'm Andy Knode. I'll see you soon.